So this final project is going to go over the role of trust in information security. Not only just the concept of trust itself, but trust certificates, automatic trust acceptance, basically implied trust, and then exploitations and the limits of trust in security in general. So trust and the perception thereof. Given that most issues with trust involve social engineering and the human aspects, we're going to cover education, training, ethics, and keeping the loyalty and trust of your employees as a method of securing data. Most of the security issues that are faced, regardless of the technology behind either the attack or the defense, have to rely on the human aspect of it. Whether or not somebody's going to go ahead and click on that link in a phishing scam or accept a certain security certificate as it comes through. We're also going to cover the concept of trust between companies and the online data sharing relationships via digital certificates, and of course, that implied trust. The perception of trust is essential to ensure the continuation of business. Without trust, there's no way for business to be conducted, and so there has to be a balancing act between security needs and the needs of the business itself. When customers believe in a product, a service, or the company itself, they're accepting that there's a reasonable level of security in place. They're accepting that their personal data is protected, their financial data is protected. They want the service or the product, and they're assuming that on your end you are a fair player in this, and that you're going to have an equal arrangement between the two as far as that security and protection. However, lack of trust, or even a perceived lack of trust, will damage not only the business, but the reputation of the business. And the reputation actually extends a lot farther than the business itself, especially with online social media sharing. One bad review, one bad experience quickly becomes 1,000 different people with the same experience with your company who may or may not have ever had any kind of business with you in the past. They just have a bad taste in their mouth considering what you've done to somebody else. They may have heard about second or even third hand. And so they're no longer going to have that trust in you, even though they haven't done that business with you in the first place. Really good quote here. Usable security comes down to a single feeling, and that's trust. Now, trust goes both ways: company to employee, producer to consumer, business to business, government to private sector, and nation to nation. If either side has a lack of trust in the other to act as a safe and proper partner, business will suffer. And that's something that we've seen time and time again. One of those data breaches, privacy loss. Facebook is a prime example of that. People at one point, whether it was appropriate to trust them or not in the first place, they did in fact trust them and placed all of their personal information in there. And this has come back to kind of bite them in the butt as they've gone through over the years. Education and training. So regular training of your employees, it's absolutely essential to keeping them up to date on the latest social engineering and phishing scams. Allowing your employees to second guess trusted sources due to language used in the phishing emails, and to be able to make those calls and outreaches to supervisors or IT before interacting with those links, that's all from knowledge. If they have no concept of those potential outreaches by criminal organizations or individuals, then they're more likely to go ahead and click on those links and never want to say anything about it until something comes down the pipeline. That's the last way you want to find out. You want to make sure that you're finding out in advance. People are actually reaching out. It gives them that confidence in their own abilities to maintain the proper security procedures that they've been trained with, and that you're hoping that they're going to go ahead and actually behave with. An employee is unsure is more likely to click on that trusted link because they're worried of the consequences. Many of the phishing emails will tell you, if you don't click on this, if you don't update this, if you don't do something that we're telling you to do, there are consequences. Well, they need to know that there are bigger consequences if they do the wrong thing in the first place. They need to be able to be aware of the type of language and be on the lookout for, where did this email come from? Who sent this? Does it match up with the reply email or the website that's being directed to? Security is a continuous process in your technology, your processes, and your people. And it's a multi-level responsibility held by everyone in the company. Conveying that message, building trust, and addressing concerns as they arise in an appropriate business-friendly manner will go a long way towards ensuring an effective security policy. It's from an article, Role of Trust and Security. Really good article. And it goes into the basics of why the people aspect of security, even cybersecurity, is the biggest uh, requirement to be looking at. We can look at all the excuse me, all of the patches that we want to, and all of the new tech and all of the new software programs for rooting out phishing schemes and penetration testing that's going on. But at the end of the day, if I just call somebody up and I say, Cindy, this is Bill from XYZ, and she just lets me right in through the door, it doesn't matter what we spent money on. Trust has already been lost, and we're kind of in a bad spot. Trust is a two-way street. It goes both ways. We've already looked at a couple of these different things. Biggest failing point in trust is whether it's deliberate, accidental, or otherwise. Again, generally lies with that human factor. Trusting your employees to protect their interests, the company's interests, and the employees' interests themselves. You have to be able to trust them to protect the livelihood of the employee and their data, the consumer's data itself. With the basis of any security being one of trust, there are technical aspects, such as security certificates, that can assist in making the process more efficient. However, even with these tools, complacency and lack of communication can become failing points as security flaws in certificates are exploited as well. The idiocy of implied trust. Implied trust generally refers to a trusted relationship between two parties that exists outside of verification and usually involves a lack of oversight. I trust you because you are IBM. I trust you because you are Microsoft, without actually going into detail or verifying that we are in fact talking to them at this point. There's quite a bit of information out there concerning exploits, malicious and malware code that's been added in to updates, security updates, patches for online games. These are a variety of different methods of adding in stuff that would normally be filtered out and rejected as untrustworthy. But because I placed it into a trustworthy source, or one that I believe to be trustworthy, it's now being allowed in through the front door as though there's nothing wrong. The trusted security certificates that will allow the web commerce and traffic to take place between businesses and consumers is a major example of that implied trust. Um, Placing blind trust in these tools, many businesses have overlooked the potential for outside parties to exploit them, and that bypasses a good chunk of it. The Trojan horse effect of that is pretty huge. Exploits run by groups like APT41, infecting games, allowing for the installation of malware and ransomware, prime examples of it. I've actually added in threat intelligence reports from FireEye. There's actually a clickable link if anybody wants to take a look at it. That report is an amazing read. Recommend it to anybody. It goes over quite a bit of detail on the group and exploits that they've utilized and ways that they've gotten around these security certificates.